My name is Emily Carter, and at 30 years old, I've just experienced something I thought only happened in suspense novels or movie thrillers. I was standing on the brink of a dream. My most cherished painting, The Dawn of Hope, was about to sell at New York's most prestigious gallery for $5 million. It was everything I had worked for, everything my heart and soul had poured into canvas and color. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. The night before the exhibit, an unfortunate security issue, my father's small forced me to store the painting temporarily at the one place I believed to be absolutely safe, my father's small humble studio in Brooklyn. I trusted him implicitly. After all, he was the one who first placed a paintbrush in my hand, taught me to see beauty in the mundane, and fostered my dreams even as his own had long since crumbled. Yet, when morning came, I stepped into a nightmare. My father, Frank Carter, was gone. My older brother, Henry, vanished along with him. And worse, my painting, my future, had disappeared with them. All that remained was a scribbled note mocking from my father's familiar handwriting, "Thanks for the generous gift, Emily. Don't try to find us." For a moment, everything around me seemed to shatter, but then incredibly, a smile formed on my lips, because hidden beneath the betrayal and heartbreak was something even more astonishing, a truth that changed everything. I didn't always stand on the doorstep of success. My childhood memories were cloaked in poverty and struggle shadows, lingering in a tiny Brooklyn apartment that reeked of dampness and despair. My father, Frank, was once an aspiring artist himself. When he was younger, his eyes shone with unfulfilled ambition, canvases stacked against every wall, a constant scent of paint thinner filling our small home. Yet his passion rarely translated into success. His paintings went unnoticed, stacked higher as his failures mounted. Life took a darker turn when I was 8. My mother, the glue holding our fragile family together, succumbed to illness. Her departure left a void nothing could fill, transforming our home into a place of echoes and longing. Dad withdrew into himself, slipping deeper into bitterness, alcohol, and self-pity, abandoning ambition for a life of numbing regret. As I grew, art became my escape, my only way out. Each brushstroke carried me further from that suffocating apartment, from the constant fear of eviction notices, from endless ramen dinners. I poured my pain, loss, and dreams onto canvas, creating worlds more beautiful than my reality. I vowed I'd never become like my father, trapped by failure, destroyed by disappointment. My art would set me free, and I worked tirelessly, relentlessly, each day, dreaming of escaping the cycle of poverty that had imprisoned my family. And finally, after years of sacrifice and determination, I'd arrived. Or so I thought, until the morning I awoke to the cruelest betrayal imaginable. Frank Carter was once a promising talent filled with idealism and fervor. But repeated rejection eroded his soul, each failure deepening his bitterness. By the time I became successful, his hope had long since faded, replaced by resentment, masked behind quiet smiles. His evenings became rituals of whiskey, regrets, and accusations whispered beneath his breath. Though I tried helping, paid his bills, bought him supplies, it only seemed to sharpen his bitterness, reminding him of what he couldn't achieve. My brother Henry, 5 years older, followed a different but equally destructive path, never willing to accept responsibility. Henry drifted through life without direction or ambition. Where I pursued art with intense dedication, Henry pursued escape gambling, borrowing, squandering any chance he was given. Every few months I'd receive panicked calls from him pleading for money, spinning elaborate stories about debts, threats, or imagined tragedies. Each time, out of guilt or misguided loyalty, I bailed him out, only reinforcing his reckless dependence. Despite their flaws, I loved them deeply, desperately clinging to the idea that family meant unconditional trust. I believed they loved me even as I ignored subtle signs of envy and bitterness whenever I achieved something meaningful. Each success, every new milestone only deepened the divide between us, yet I refused to acknowledge it, until the morning my painting vanished and their betrayal became painfully undeniable. Now, reflecting back, I see clearly the twisted roots of jealousy and resentment that had grown unchecked beneath our family bond, culminating in the theft that should have destroyed me. Yet despite everything, their betrayal didn't break me. It only revealed the true strength buried within. My escape began the moment I received a full scholarship to Pratt Institute. Leaving home felt like stepping into sunlight after years spent in shadow. I remember clearly the first time I stood before my easel in a spacious, brightly lit studio, the scent of fresh paint heavy in the air. The professors quickly noticed something in me, passion burning fiercely beneath my quiet exterior, and encouraged me to push my art further deeper beyond anything I'd ever imagined. While my classmates enjoyed carefree evenings exploring Brooklyn nightlife, I poured every spare moment into my work. I held down 2 part-time jobs to afford art supplies and small necessities. Every weekend found me either at the library studying techniques from master artists or hidden away in the studio perfecting my craft. After graduation, I fought hard for a foothold in New York's competitive art scene. I exhibited at tiny pop-up galleries selling just enough to pay rent and keep painting. I faced rejection repeatedly, yet each failure fueled my determination, pushing me to create more vividly with greater emotion and intensity. Slowly, critics began taking notice, and soon my paintings appeared in notable galleries throughout Manhattan. My breakthrough came last year, when a well-known art collector purchased my painting Reflections for a staggering sum, instantly elevating my status from unknown talent to rising star. Overnight doors opened exclusive exhibits, lucrative commissions, and magazine features. But no success ever made me forget my past or dull the echoes of childhood pain. Each canvas I painted still bore traces of those early struggles, a quiet tribute to the journey that had brought me here. I believed the worst lay behind me, confident I'd finally broken free of my family's tragic legacy. Yet life had one more painful lesson to teach me. The painting was called The Dawn of Hope. It represented everything I'd ever dreamed of. A sunrise cascading gold and amber hues across an empty, quiet cityscape, symbolizing renewal, second chances, and the beautiful possibility within every tomorrow. When the renowned Whitney Gallery in Chelsea confirmed they intended to sell it for $5 million, my heart swelled with gratitude and disbelief. All my dreams were coming true. 2 nights before the grand opening, the gallery director called with unsettling news. A severe electrical issue required emergency renovations, temporarily disabling their advanced security system. Reluctantly, they suggested I remove the painting overnight to ensure its safety. Panicked but determined, I agreed. At Adam's urging, I considered secure storage units, yet nothing seemed safer or more familiar than my father's studio. After all, Frank's workspace had always felt sacred, a quiet sanctuary of creation. Trust, despite everything, still bound me to my father. That evening, as Henry and Frank helped carry the carefully wrapped canvas inside, I briefly noticed something odd. Quick glances exchanged between them, whispered words abruptly silenced as I approached. But in my excitement and exhaustion, I dismissed any suspicion, believing family loyalty remained absolute. Before leaving that night, I hugged my father, unaware it would be our last genuine embrace. He held me slightly longer than usual, murmuring softly, "Proud of you, Emily." I ignored the strange undertone of regret in his voice, too overcome by excitement to sense impending betrayal. Later, alone in my apartment, I couldn't sleep, tossing restlessly through memories and worries, never realizing that just a few blocks away, my father and brother were carefully orchestrating their escape planning to steal not only my painting, but my trust, my hope, and the delicate foundation upon which I'd rebuilt my entire life. When I opened my eyes the next morning, unease flooded me instantly. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, streaking across the ceiling in delicate stripes. I glanced at the clock, 7:30 a.m., and rubbed sleep from my eyes, trying to shake the heaviness lingering in my chest. Something felt wrong. A deep instinct tugged at me, pushing me out of bed. I hurriedly dressed hard, quickening with each step toward my father's studio. As I approached the familiar, old brick building, a chill traveled down my spine. The door stood ajar, slightly swinging gently in the breeze. I felt the color drain from my face as panic began to rise, clawing at my throat. "Dad." My voice echoed weakly through the empty space as I stepped inside. "Henry." Silence met me, deafening and unnatural. Canvases stood untouched, paintbrushes lay scattered, palettes abandoned as though they'd left mid-stroke. A cold wave of dread filled me, pulling my gaze inevitably toward the far wall. The place I'd carefully secured, the painting only hours earlier. Empty. My breath caught sharply, heart hammering, violently, as I rushed forward searching desperately. Nothing. The dawn of hope was gone. No, I whispered, denial rising into anguish. My vision blurred, tears pricking at my eyes as my hands trembled. Then my eyes found the note resting innocently on my father's old wooden easel. I recognized Dad's rough handwriting instantly. "Thanks for the generous gift, Emily. Don't try to find us." Each word was a dagger piercing through my chest, robbing me of air. My knees buckled as reality crashed down relentlessly. My own father, my brother, had betrayed me, taken the painting I'd poured my soul into, vanished like thieves in the night. I sank onto the cold floor, gripping the note in shaking fingers. Anguish twisted inside me, sharp and bitter, mingled with disbelief. I trusted them, loved them unconditionally. How could they have done this? The silence around me felt cruel, a mocking emptiness where family bonds should have stood firm. All that remained was bitter truth I'd lost, not only the painting, but my family, in a single brutal act of betrayal. Everything that followed blurred into chaos. I barely recall stumbling from the studio, frantic and desperate, my phone shaking in my hand as I called Adam. His sleepy voice became instantly alert when he heard my ragged sobs. "They're gone, Adam." I choked out, pain raw and thick in my voice. "The painting's gone. My dad, Henry, they took it all." "What?" He sounded stunned, unable to comprehend my words. "Emily, slow down. Where are you?" I sank onto the sidewalk, tears streaming unchecked down my face, chest heaving as grief and confusion battled for dominance inside me. Adam found me 15 minutes later, crumpled and broken, staring blankly ahead as morning commuters hurried past, oblivious to my pain. He knelt beside me gently, wrapping strong arms around my trembling frame. "We'll figure this out, Em. Let's call the police." In the hours afterward, questions from investigators flew at me relentlessly. Did I suspect them? Had there been arguments recently? Did Frank or Henry have financial problems? Each question felt like salt rubbed deeply into my wounds, forcing me to acknowledge the signs I'd deliberately ignored. Meanwhile, my phone began buzzing with messages from the gallery. Rumors were already spreading. Collectors were withdrawing offers. My credibility as an artist questioned overnight. Years of hard-earned reputation vanished in mere moments, leaving only doubt and scandal behind. Sleeplessness became my nightly companion, every shadow reminding me of what I'd lost. Memories of childhood trust and love now tasted bitter, corrupted by treachery. Anxiety clawed at my chest relentlessly, and the studio, a place once filled with hope and joy, now seemed foreign, poisoned by betrayal. Despite Adam's comforting presence, a cold isolation settled within me. I withdrew from friends, from colleagues, from everything that once defined my life. Each morning brought fresh grief, each night unbearable loneliness, until my reflection became a stranger, eyes haunted by betrayal. I'd built my life upon family and trust. Both lay shattered now, and I didn't know how or if I could ever reclaim myself again. As the investigation unfolded, each revelation felt like another punch to my stomach, more painful than the last. Detective Martinez, the lead investigator assigned to my case, sat across from me in a small interrogation room. She regarded me gently, her voice calm yet tinged with caution. "Emily, you need to hear this." She began slowly sliding a series of photographs across the table. They were surveillance images, grainy black and white shots from an ATM and a local pawn shop. I stared blankly, struggling to accept the evidence clearly visible before me. "That's your father, Frank Carter, and your brother, Henry. These were taken 2 weeks ago. They were liquidating personal belongings, watches, jewelry, antique items, to raise quick cash," she explained softly. "We found out Frank had mounting gambling debts, Emily. Serious debts he'd hidden from everyone, including you." I felt my throat tighten painfully, betrayal digging deeper, unraveling everything I'd believed about my father. Martinez continued quietly, as though reluctant to deliver yet another blow. "We've tracked phone records, emails, transactions. Frank contacted art dealers on the black market weeks ago, offering what he described as an exclusive rare opportunity you're painting. It was meticulously planned. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. I looked away, jaw clenched tightly to hold back tears. Anger sparked inside me, hot and fierce, mingling with crushing sadness. They booked a flight to Paris under false names, paid in cash. "We believe they're meeting a buyer there within the next 2 days," Martinez said softly, sympathy evident in her gaze. How could I be so blind? My voice broke, bitterness filling every syllable. I gave them everything: money, support, love. Why would they do this? Martinez shook her head slowly, empathy etched clearly on her face. Sometimes desperation makes people forget who they truly are. Frank and Henry were desperate men, Emily. And sadly, desperate men often do things they later regret. When Martinez left, silence filled the room again, heavy and oppressive. Evidence surrounded me, stark proof of calculated betrayal, emails, flight itineraries, financial records, but none of it explained how my family, the people I'd trusted implicitly, had become strangers willing to destroy everything I'd built. Walking home that evening through crowded city streets, grief and disbelief weighed heavily upon me. The city lights blurred around me, indifferent to my pain, my loss. I knew only one thing clearly: my father and brother had deliberately and meticulously betrayed me, shattering my world without a second thought. Yet even then a small voice within whispered that perhaps I didn't yet know the entire truth. In the weeks following the theft, everything around me began to crumble slowly but irreversibly. My once bright apartment in Manhattan felt suffocating, as if the walls themselves bore witness to my unraveling. The endless rounds of questioning with police detectives, gallery meetings, to explain away scandals, and sleepless nights filled with nightmares drained me completely. Yet worst of all was the widening distance growing between Adam and me. Adam had always been my rock, the calm amid every storm, but now tension hung heavy between us, silent resentment simmering beneath strained conversations and forced normalcy. I saw the toll clearly etched into his gentle features each night. We shared dinner words scarce and guarded. I knew my obsession with the theft, my ceaseless frantic pursuit for answers, pushed him away. But knowing didn't stop me. One evening, exhausted after hours poring over investigation notes, I found Adam waiting in our dimly lit kitchen, face drawn and eyes weary. His voice broke softly through the silence. "Emily, we need to talk." Something in his tone sent icy fear down my spine. "Please don't," I whispered, already sensing where this conversation would lead. "You're not yourself anymore," he said quietly, sadness heavy in each word. "Every moment we're together, it feels like you're miles away, lost in anger and suspicion." I shook my head desperately. "Adam, you know what they did. How could I not be angry?" "Of course you're angry," he replied, stepping closer, eyes pleading. "But it's consuming you entirely. You won't talk about anything else. You're shutting everyone out, including me." "What do you expect?" I snapped, defensiveness flaring hotly. "They took everything from me, my painting, my family, my trust. And now they're taking us," Adam said quietly, heartbreak evident in his voice. "Emily, if we don't step away from this darkness, we'll lose what's left of us too." Painful silence settled around us, unspoken fears filling every breath. I wanted to reach out, promise him I could change, yet anger and hurt still raged within me, relentless and overpowering. I felt trapped, caught between unbearable betrayal and the fear of losing the only person left who truly cared. "I can't just let it go," I finally whispered, my voice shaking. "Not yet. Not until I understand why." Adam looked away, shoulders slumping in quiet defeat. "Then I think I need space," he said gently, regret deep in his voice. "I love you, Emily, but watching you destroy yourself, I can't do it anymore." My heart shattered silently, my world fracturing completely as he stepped away into the shadows. Alone in the quiet darkness of my apartment, I realized that the betrayal from my father and brother had now cost me even more than I'd ever imagined. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed harshly, jarring me awake from another restless sleep. Groggy and disoriented, I reached blindly, heart hammering in sudden anxiety. I expected more bad news. another disappointment, another painful twist of the knife. But instead, an unexpected voice greeted me, familiar yet startling at this hour. "Emily, it's Jack Lawson from the Whitney Gallery." The voice spoke calmly but urgently. I sat up abruptly, rubbing my eyes, fully alert now. "Jack," I asked, shakily, confusion rising within me. "Is everything all right?" He hesitated briefly, clearing his throat. "I was working late tonight, reviewing our records before filing the insurance claim regarding your stolen painting, and I found something peculiar. Something you need to know immediately." My chest tightened painfully. "What is it?" My voice barely rose above a whisper, dread creeping back into my heart. "The painting you left with your father, the Dawn of Hope. It wasn't the original," Jack said gently but clearly. "The piece you gave him was your test cop, the one you painted first, to perfect your brushstrokes and colors." Shock rippled through me, disbelief tangled with cautious hope. "Jack, are you certain?" My voice trembled, breath caught in my throat. "Absolutely sure," he confirmed firmly. "Remember 2 weeks ago, before the renovations, you asked me to move the original painting into secure gallery storage because you were concerned about humidity. I signed it in personally. It's still here, safe, untouched." A rush of memory suddenly flooded back I'd completely forgotten, amid the trauma grief clouding my recollections. In a flash, I vividly recalled my careful decision to protect the original masterpiece, subtly switching it for the earlier trial version before handing it over to Dad's studio. At the time, it was merely cautious intuition. Now it seemed providential. I exhaled sharply, emotion surging violently, relief, elation, fury. My father and brother had vanished into darkness, clutching nothing but worthless canvas, a meaningless illusion of their betrayal. My heart, heavy and shattered for weeks, suddenly lifted, freed from the crushing weight of loss. "They never took the real painting," I whispered, incredulously, almost laughing, from pure astonishment. "All this pain, all this suffering, for nothing." Jack spoke again gently, compassion evident in his voice. "Emily, whatever their intentions were, they failed. You still have everything you've worked for. The masterpiece is here, yours, and only yours." For the first time in what felt like forever, genuine strength filled me again. My father and brother hadn't destroyed me. In fact, their deception only revealed my own resilience, hidden but stronger than ever. The next morning, with newfound clarity, I contacted Detective Martinez, revealing Jack's discovery. Her reaction mirrored mine, a blend of surprise and cautious excitement. "This changes everything," Martinez affirmed firmly. "They think they've succeeded, that the painting they're trying to sell in Paris is authentic, but they're trafficking a worthless imitation. If we move swiftly, we can catch them red-handed." My mind raced, anger mixing sharply with determination. Frank and Henry thought they'd stolen my life's work, thought they'd reduced me to nothing, but instead they'd unknowingly walked into their own trap. The tables had turned, and now I held the power they'd attempted to take away. "I want to be there," I told Martinez resolutely. "When they realize what they've done, when they understand that all their lies amounted to nothing, I need to face them myself." She studied me carefully, recognizing the fierce conviction in my eyes. "All right, Emily. But you'll need professional assistance. We'll coordinate with Interpol and local authorities. Your safety must remain our highest priority." Within hours, a detailed operation formed meticulously, Interpol agents discreetly tracking Frank and Henry's movements across Paris, Detective Martinez preparing to coordinate arrests once the transaction began. Jack, eager to help, provided official documentation authenticating the original artwork's secured status at the gallery. Throughout the preparations, I remained calm, yet intensely focused, driven not by revenge, but by a powerful need for justice, to reclaim the truth and confront those who had tried to shatter me. Each piece of the plan, falling into place, strengthened my resolve, sharpened my clarity. I knew exactly what had to be done, exactly how I'd reclaim my story. 2 days later, I boarded the overnight flight to Paris. Alone in the darkness of the airplane cabin, city lights glittering far beneath, I felt an unfamiliar confidence building steadily within me. For weeks I'd been trapped in despair, haunted by betrayal. Now I was stepping boldly forward, determined to rewrite the ending they'd stolen from me. Soon, Frank and Henry would learn the bitter consequences of their actions. Soon, I'd finally understand why they'd chosen to betray me. And soon, I'd reclaim not only the painting, but my own strength, dignity, and freedom as well. The restaurant was called Le Noir, a luxurious rooftop lounge nestled in the heart of Paris's art district, known for its exclusivity and discretion, a perfect setting for private deals that preferred to avoid the spotlight. From our surveillance team, we knew Frank and Henry had made a dinner reservation under false names, planning to meet a mysterious buyer who was offering cash for the masterpiece. I arrived first, slipping into the room with the composure of someone who had shed her fear like an old skin. My hair was pulled into a sleek bun black dress, simple and striking. Every step I took felt like a quiet reclaiming of my story. They didn't notice me at first. My father sat at the table swirling a glass of red wine, wearing a suit far too expensive for his usual taste. His expression was smug, satisfied. Henry leaned back in his chair, laughing about something on his phone. Between them sat a large black leather portfolio, the painting. I stepped forward and said evenly, "Room for one more." Their heads snapped up in unison. My father's jaw went slack. "Emily, what? How did you—" Henry stood stumbling over his chair. "You shouldn't be here." I sat down across from them, ignoring the tension suddenly radiating from their bodies. "Relax. I'm not here to make a scene," I said, voice like ice. "I just came to ask one question. How does it feel knowing you betrayed your own daughter?" "For nothing." "What are you talking about?" Frank snapped, recovering quickly. "That painting is worth millions." I reached calmly for the leather portfolio, opened it slowly, and revealed the canvas. I tilted it gently toward the light. No watermark, no seal, no signature, just brushstrokes and desperation. Henry stared at it in horror. "No. You stole a decoy," I said. "The real painting still safe in New York, and I brought friends." At that cue, Interpol agents quietly approached the table. Neither man resisted. Frank's face turned ghost white as he was cuffed. Henry cursed, but his voice cracked with defeat. I watched in silence as they were led away. Two men who had chosen greed over love, deception over trust. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of your own journey through trust, betrayal, and healing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. On this channel, we tell stories that dig deep, stories about resilience, family, and the quiet strength we find in the aftermath of pain. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter. Because sometimes, the worst betrayals lead to the most beautiful rebuildings. And your story matters too. 3 months later, I stood before a packed gallery in Manhattan, sunlight pouring through the tall windows as the dawn of hope finally took its rightful place on the wall. Viewers murmured in admiration, cameras flashed, and critics scribbled notes. The betrayal hadn't ruined me, it had sharpened me, stripped away illusion, and left behind something stronger, clearer, and more resilient. The exhibition sold out within hours. Offers poured in. But for me, the most meaningful moment wasn't the sale or the praise. It was standing alone with the painting, after everyone had gone, letting the silence settle around me, at peace with what had been lost and what I had saved. Adam came back. He'd followed everything from afar, silently supporting me while giving me space. When I opened the door to find him standing there, one rainy evening, soaked and nervous, all I could do was smile. "I never stopped loving you," he said, "but I needed to know you hadn't stopped loving yourself." We started over carefully, intentionally, this time with therapy and honesty, not blind hope. My father and Henry pled guilty to attempted fraud and conspiracy. Their sentence was reduced after I declined to give a victim impact statement. I told the judge, they've already lost something far more permanent than freedom. People asked me often now how I'd survived it all. I told them the truth. Sometimes losing everything shows you exactly who you are. And sometimes betrayal doesn't break you. It reveals the version of yourself that was waiting to emerge. I never saw Frank or Henry again. I didn't need to. The past would always live in the brushstrokes of my paintings, but it no longer defined me. Because hope, like art, doesn't just survive the darkness, it rises from it.